A captive air well pump system uses air as the spring which maintains the pressure. Over time, the system will lose air, which means that the pump has to operate more frequently, start more frequently, in order to keep the water flowing. When the air is depleted, the sensation is of an unreliable water supply that fades off. When it's fully charged, it feels steady. The pump starts less frequently, which uses less power and wears it out less, and each time it runs for longer, so it gets more done on fewer starts. The objective test for this is to run the water until the pump starts and time how long before it stops. In that case, it ran from about 32 to 48, or 15 seconds. It probably would have been a little less if I'd remembered to let off the trigger. I was still squirting water as it was trying to refill. Obviously, the compressor's having trouble getting started. The tank is totally waterlogged, and it just puts pressure in its own hose and then stops. Okay, pressure feels really sticky at first, and then once it comes unstuck, you can start actually getting air into that tank and it works okay. I'm running the system at about 60-40, and I'm trying to make sure that tank is full at 40. So when the pressure gets close to the limit, I let out some water, which should let in some air. I should mention that the first part is done with the well pump turned off and at the lower end of its range. This first captive air tank has a bladder inside. When it reaches its limit, it won't be able to press on the water anymore, and it will just have air inside. The other captive air tank does not have a bladder. In that case, there's no mechanical limit. You can just keep pumping as long as you want, as long as you don't explode the system. And in that case, you start getting air out the faucets. Not a good thing. So what I do in that case is, after filling the one that has a limit, I move the compressor to the one that doesn't, run the water pump until I have a full head of pressure, and then start letting out basically air or water, whichever comes, from the relief valve. If I get air, I'm okay. The bubble's about the size I want it. If I get water, I let some out, replace it with air, being careful not to overpressurize the whole system, and then test again. This is boring. I probably should be making use of a kitchen timer to avoid overheating my compressor. Alrighty, you get a 10-minute cool down period. Alright, I've finally reached the spot where I can let water out and the air pressure continues to rise. So that tank is full. That one's no longer participating at the current pressure. I deliberately set that one a little high because it's known to leak. Setting it high and having the air compressor turn on at the same time as the water pump will let him. Alright, almost 2 hours later, both tanks are refilled. Once again, I run the hose until the pump starts, then count the seconds until it stops. taking a while. I hope I remember to turn the breaker on. Getting wet. Oh. All right, 55 psi, 56, 57, 58 and a half, 59 and a half, 60 and a half, 61 and a half. I think it stops at 62. There we go, and it's off. Definitely longer than 15 seconds. And there's the culprit, actual leaky air valve. And what do I expect to get for that effort, which took maybe 90 minutes? An ugly earful and eviction. I work for the ungrateful.